So I started reading Flowers for Algernon. I went into this knowing nothing. All I knew about it was that a subscriber sent this to me years ago. It's a classic sci-fi, so I should maybe give it a go. And that's it. And wow, was I not prepared. So this is a great example of a preference not being a rule. So I said recently in my new release vlog that I tend to not be a fan of first person perspective, especially if we're in their perspective the whole book, because I get tired of following the same person for a long period of time, and if I don't particularly love this person, then I really get tired fast. And it's not my preference. That's not going to ruin a book for me, but it's just not my preference. This is an example of a first person perspective that thrives with this narration choice. It's first person present tense. And okay, so we follow this kid named Charlie. Adult. He's 32 years old, but we follow him through... Okay, it doesn't matter. We follow Charlie. He was born with a mental disability, and because of that, his IQ is low. He doesn't pick up on a lot of social situations. He needs a lot of extra assistance, and he is the butt of a lot of jokes to people that he considers friends. He views it as, we're all friends, we're all playing together, but from the outside you see what's actually happening. It's a really rough read, actually. It's very painful to read Charlie's journal entries. So anyway, he has been submitted to this experiment. There's these group of scientists that are doing these experiments on a mouse named Algernon, as well as on Charlie, trying to increase their intelligence. They're trying to see if they can help people who are born with learning disabilities. So Charlie is doing these journal entries at first with a load of spelling mistakes and no grammatical, no punctuation stuff, and then you slowly see him become more skilled at reading and writing, and his journal entries become more cohesive, and then they kind of surpass you to where he's using extravagant vocabulary at times and understanding a lot of medical research that even the people who are in charge of his research haven't had the ability to learn because they weren't able to learn all the languages. So Charlie's IQ shoots way up. The problem is that also the people who have been in charge of this experiment are very much like, look at what I did and look at how I gave this person life. He was barely human before, but now he actually has a life. And Charlie is very aware, and he challenges them and he says, you treat me and you say that I wasn't human before. I was a human before. I had value of life before, but they view him more as an experiment than as a person. It's a rough read. It's hard because we get flashbacks from his childhood where his parents did not, well, especially his mom, did not treat him well. We see his friends who did not treat him well. We see him struggle as his intellectual IQ soars, but his emotional development comes much more slowly, and so he really struggles with that as well. Anyway, it's a lot. This book is a lot, and I'm not done with it yet, obviously, but I do find myself wondering at this point in my reading, where are we going? Like, there's obvious places that we're going as far as Charlie's trajectory, especially as we view what's happening with Algernon, the mouse that was being experimented on at the same time as Charlie. We can kind of guess where it's all going, but at the same time, I guess I wonder how does this end? Like, how does this end? And what's the message at the end? I mean, obviously I'm going to read and find out, but it is a really, really, really difficult read, not because it's, the language is challenging or anything like that, but just because it's hard to see so many people put so little value in someone just because they have a disability, And nearly everybody in Charlie's life does. So, yeah, it's been an emotional read. Sorry, this was a long check-in. That's a lot of thoughts for a book that's not even that long and that I'm not even done with yet. But this book is very emotional. It's very emotional, and I have a lot of thoughts. Anyway, welcome to the vlog. incredibly challenging read for me. So this is a really emotional story that tackles the value of intelligence versus the value of love in a person's life, compassion, the amount of humanity that we ascribe to somebody who is different from the norm, and challenging human nature and how we tend to handle people that are outside of what is most commonplace and what their true needs are versus what we try to problem solve. It's a book that has a lot of really, really challenging scenes as we see the way Charlie is treated, both in his past as he's growing up and people view him as a obstacle in their life or as a hindrance or as a problem to be solved. And then in present day, whenever people have succeeded at solving the problem, how they then treat him as if his humanity is tied to that problem, and therefore there was no humanity whenever he was different, and him basically fighting for his own humanity and fighting for the right to be given love and respect no matter where he is in his at that point in his life. It's a really challenging read, a really, really challenging read with a lot of really, really painful scenes, but it was also very, very, very good. Very hard to read. I read it very slowly because I needed to take a lot of breaks, but a really fantastic story and written really well. To have the kind of to have the reader be able to see Charlie's IQ go up in his language and in his behavior, but also in his writings, because this entire book is told through his journal entries. And in the beginning, his journal entries have a ton of grammatical errors and spelling errors and are very difficult to read at times. And then that gradual progression into his journal entries almost seeming almost being too intelligent to where I have to stop and be like, what did you just say there? Which I love. It was written so well, so skillfully. The balance between the first person present tense and then his flashbacks being told in this removed Charlie as a third person, and then the difficulty of Charlie's IQ far passing up his emotional intelligence, his intellectual intelligence far passing up his emotional intelligence, and then the struggles that come with that, and then gaining that emotional experience slowly as well. Just there's so many different things happening in this book, and it was all balanced so well, and it was all written so well, and I'm very, very impressed. Just go in knowing, ouch, will be the sentiment while reading this book. I have now started another book, Hollow Kingdom, which is the weirdest book that I've read in a while. There's some sort of something happening to all the humans. Maybe it's an apocalypse, but something bad. None of the humans are acting right, and the whole book is told from the perspective of animals. Primarily, a crow is our main protagonist, and he has gained all of his knowledge about the world and about how people and things in the world are labeled from his previous owner, Jim, who's no longer with us. I mean, something strange is happening to him. And this Jim guy doesn't seem like the coolest guy in the world. So there's a lot of humor tied up in the crow's language, like he calls all the humans mofos because he thinks that that's their correct terminology, their correct name, because that's what Jim constantly called his fellow humans. Lots of potty humor, lots of crass humor. It was all really funny at first, and it got old really fast. So I'm not quite as charmed. I was very charmed by it in the beginning because of the comedic effect of it, because of the weird, strange perspective. And there are other perspectives that you get. Like, my personal favorite is Winnie the Poodle. She's a poodle dog, and she refers to herself in the third poodle. And she's so prissy, and I love her so much. But anyway, there's other perspectives as well, and some of them are really charming and fun. Like, there's a cat perspective that's brilliant. But it's mainly told from the perspective of the crow, which is less fun to me. Anyway, they're trying to figure out what happened to the humans and how to help them. I can't say that I'm super interested in the main storyline at the moment. Really, the side characters are what's keeping me going. But I'm reading it, so I'll let you know what I think. So I have to leave in a minute, but I will quickly give you my final thoughts on Hollow Kingdom as well as a Dragon Ball update. So, Hollow Kingdom. I didn't love it. I didn't hate it. I just didn't love it. I really can't tell you about the plot of this. I can tell you how the plot started. Humans, something's gone wrong. They're not right. Animals want to fix it or just survive. And then I can tell you the end of the plot, which would be a spoiler. But the middle plot, I can't really tell you anything because it was just really side tangenty. Characters, a collection of animal perspectives, primarily following the crow, but a few others pop in there. Surviving the world, post-apocalypse, banding together in some cases, in many cases. Thematics, I can tell you what this book was doing because it was very themes heavy and I don't always love the way it did themes. So let's talk about that. So there were some themes that were real on the nose, like humans' addiction to devices, to screens, strips us of our humanity. That one was like real in your face. And Mother Nature is awesome, is like super duper cool, and we should appreciate her. Both of these themes I actually love and would love to dig into, but the way the book did them didn't feel like an invitation to a conversation. It felt like, I'm going to talk at you now, which I don't particularly love that handling of themes, but there were some other themes that I think were handled a lot more to my taste, a lot more subtly and woven into the story instead of like, pause, let me tell you something. Themes of friendship, found family, heroism, sacrifice, self-identity discovery, self-acceptance. Those things were actually woven into the story and into the characters' stories a lot better, or a lot more to my preference, a lot more subtly, and more of, ooh, let's unpack this, and less of, so let me just explain this to you. So who should I recommend this book to? I honestly don't know. I don't even know how to talk about this book because there were scenes and portions of this book that I loved and then, well, that I enjoyed, and then scenes and portions of this book that I didn't. So how can I tell you how I felt about the book? Because I don't really know. How can I tell you if you would like it? If you want a really different kind of book, just something that's doing something real different, and you enjoy reading from the perspective of animals, discovering the world, discovering themselves, banding together, and having really strong personalities. If you don't mind an apocalyptic setting where there is going to be plenty of gore and moments of peril. It's a very high stakes story. It's a very emotionally driven story where peril is always around the corner. There's some really creepy scenes that I think were handled excellently. I don't know. I guess if you just want something really weird and really different it leans heavily on humor, but humor in the face of horror, which usually is for me, but the humor was very hit or miss for me. But it's going to be different for everybody. Humor is such a subjective thing. It's a quick read. It's a really, really fast read. It's not a long book. So if any of that sounds intriguing to you, give it a go. I don't want to discourage people from trying this book because I read some reviews and people love it. But it was both a hit and a miss for me. There were things that I really enjoyed about it and there were things that I really didn't. So I don't know how to talk about it, but hopefully that'll give you an idea if it's something that you should look into more. Now let's talk about Dragon Ball. I only read 2 volumes this week. Usually I try to do 3 a week. I did 2 this week. We're in another tournament, and this time it's so much fun. So again, I'm going to keep it spoiler free in my voice, but on the screen there will be panels. So, you've been warned. Treat it as a podcast if you don't want spoilers. I said this time the tournament was super fun. I loved the tournament last time too, but it was so fun this time. We got introduced to some new characters, some new powers that I really liked, but the star of the tournament was Goku, obviously, but was also a new character that we got introduced to that was very powerful, that was a true challenge to Goku, but that also had a lot of human layers to him, where my memory card just filled up and I had to go delete something, and then I just realized that I think I already wore the shirt in the vlog, but I don't own that many shirts, so it's bound to happen, I guess. Anyway, he's on a path, he knows what he wants to do, but he ends up having to question that path and question who he's put himself in alliance with. He shows integrity, which I love. And then also Nasty Old Man had some awesome moments in the tournament too. I love when I love his consideration for the crowd in certain moments of peril. I love his defense for newer characters that are trying to figure things out. And I love his belief in the next generation, his belief and satisfaction in just knowing we're on a good path. We have some good options. There's good hope for the future. And as someone who's really loving what's happening in One Piece right now, I also really love that I just got to read. I love seeing Goku really challenge himself and have to fight really hard. I love seeing other characters feeling really challenged by Goku. I love the ingenuity of these fights, people having to really think through these moves that they have and think through creative ways to use them in order to be able to overcome their opponents. I think it's goofy that Goku's one weakness is just like off page been solved, and now he just according to what people are saying right now, he just suddenly doesn't have any weaknesses at all, and like we didn't even get to see that progression. That's so goofy to me. Anyway, it was super fun. I love the new characters that we got. I really hope that we're not done with said new character. I call him Machop for obvious reasons. I really hope we're not done with him and we're going to see more, because I really like him, but it was a really fun time. I'm still just like, it's just a really fun series and I'm having a good time. Anyway, that's my update for this week. I read Flowers for Algernon, which was depressing and sad, but also excellent. I read Hollow Kingdom, which was a miss for me, but I don't necessarily think it's going to be a miss for everyone. So maybe look into it if something that I said sounded interesting to you. And I read more Dragon Ball. I post videos every Tuesday and Thursday on this channel, Mondays and Fridays on my other channel, which is always linked in the description. I hope you had a good week and read some good things. I'll see you again soon. Bye.